Okay, early this month, I walked into the house and I flipped through the various news stations I watch, and then I went to Turner Classic Movies, as usual. And they were showing the ending of this 1940s movie, Suspicion. And it stars Cary Grant and Joan Fontaine at the height of their careers. And it's a very good story, so I recommend it to you. And reminded me that I did actually meet Joan Fontaine one on one. It was the fall of 1974 at Brooklyn College. Uh, I had returned home from Vietnam and I was still living at home, and I could walk to Brooklyn College, and I was attending it. And to show you how long ago it was, there was no tuition. Anyway, I was receiving a small stipend from the Veterans Administration, so everything was good. They were having a memorial for Professor Prokopi Kostas, who actually came from the same small Spartan village as my father. He was in the classic department, and his passion was English words that had Greek roots in them. And I think the longer the better. Well, this event featured Alexander Scorby, a movie actor, and a very famous narrator. I believe he narrated things for National Geographic as well as he narrated the Bible. And Joan Fontaine, who I didn't know at the time what her career was like. But anyway, they had a poetry reading, which I've never been to, and I think it was Elizabeth Browning poems were featured. But after that was over, they had a reception and a receiving line. Well, I've never been to on a receiving line, so I queued up, and he was moving steadily, and before I know it, there I am, face to face with Joan Fontaine. And she gave me this wide-eyed look, and it was an awkward moment for me. She curtsied, she extended her hand, and I noticed that she was wearing these very elegant gloves that extended past her elbow, and they were really ornately embroidered. And then that moment was over. You know, my life is filled with, I wish I could do things over again. I would love to have gone back in time. I would have addressed Dieter, would have worked on my posture, and when it was time to greet Joan, I would have bowed slightly, reverently, and I would have returned her, "You're the only person in the world" look. It was quite a lesson in class. And that started a train of thought of how I've learned things over the years. PS 92. Again, I could walk to school. There was no busing then. I was in the 6th grade. Mrs. Cohn was my teacher. Her and Mrs. Weiss would put on Gilbert and Sullivan Productions. I had a big part in the HMS Pinafore, and my older brother Jimmy was in the Mikado. But these two ladies, always dressed very neatly with dresses, necklaces, bracelets, and they wore high heels that I could always hear clicking, and they always looked like they just came out of a beauty parlor. Mrs. Cohn said something to me that during the summer, she was with her husband traveling south, and for some reason, he drank out of 2 water fountains. One was marked whites only, and the other was a sign said colored only. And after doing so, he turned to her and said, "You know, the water tastes the same." Well, for our graduation, there was a dance. I wore a brown suit, a new brown suit. And the song at the time that I remember was Ricky Nelson's "I'm a Traveling Man." And anytime I hear it on the transistor radio, I bowed the words along. I really can't carry a tune. And I danced with, I think, 4 different girls. The two-step only. And you know, all these years have passed. Well, I can't do anything but the two-step. But at least I learned brown suits doesn't suit me. On to junior high school. What a different world. Lefferts Junior High School on Lefferts Boulevard and New York Avenue. And my math teacher was Mr. Hagan. He was a stocky guy with a crew cut, always wore a jacket with a tie, and he had a peculiar way of disciplining you. He would throw a chalked up eraser. He never hit anybody, and I don't think they would let a teacher do that today. But what I learned was, it was kind of like prestigious. Well, he threw an eraser at me. Isn't that something? But his thing was class trips. We went to the Brooklyn Museum to hear an orchestra, a live orchestra. I'd never been to a concert before. We had to walk through this great hall, past these stone carvings from the South Pacific. And to my eyes, they looked, well, very strange. I was a little uncomfortable. But, you know, it's different people have different ideas. Anyway, they're playing all these different, about 30 pieces. They're playing all these, you know, classical pieces, you know, something in B minor or number 5. I don't remember, but I was paying attention to each individual instrument. And then they announced, we're going to play the William Tell Overture. Oh boy, I know William Tell. He was the guy that placed an apple on his son's head and shot the apple with a crossbow. Well, they started playing it, and it was dun 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 dun. Wait a minute, that's the theme to the Long Ranger. You know, I learned that a musical piece could be popular and classical at the same time. That was something. Then he took us to the New York Times, where we saw the paper being printed. And it was noisy and this and that. All these people doing all these different jobs. Then to the Empire State Building. Oh boy. Way up there, we took the elevator. What a view. My goodness, there's a big world out there. Then to the Federal Reserve, down in Lower Manhattan. Those thick walls. Your money's got to be safe there. Well, they put a stack of bills on the counter and they let us all touch it, all the kids. And they said, that's $10,000. You know, something tells me I don't think they let kids touch that money today. Then there was Miss Landy, Susan Landy. Well, I realized I had a crush on her because she was tall, had short hair, bright eyes, and full lips. She was my English teacher. I think she liked me because she put me on a stage production. I can't remember when. I was like, this is magic. But anyway, she came back after the Christmas break and said, well, I'm no longer Miss Landy. I'm Mrs. Lippman. got married to another teacher here. I was really disappointed. But I forgave Mr. Litwin because she told the class he was a medic during the Korean War and his unit got wiped out. You know, in thinking about how I learned things, not just from books, but experience, you know, I have to admit, I'm more of a tortoise than a hare.